So President Trump's made a lot of claims about the 2020 presidential election, that it was, that there was a lot of fraud and that it was stolen from him. How do you feel about all those claims?
Well, if the claims are investigated, which they say they are, there's not really much one can do about that, either way. So what's already done is done. There's no need to keep drudging it back up. It's not going to do anybody any good. It's a waste of taxpayer money and time.
Do you feel confident, though, that when you cast your ballot that it's going to be accurately counted and that your vote will really count like it should?
Let's hope, because there has been some accusations of that in the past, that somebody will be overseeing that needs to be this time much more than last time. Let's hope there's a little more checks and balances going on and it'll be a little more transparent than it was to begin with.
Do you think that voting absentee or through the mail is any more or less secure than voting in person at the polls?
Depends on really what your view is. If you don't have an opportunity to go to the polls, then absentee, I guess, is better than not voting.
I've been voting absentee. It started because I just wasn't going to be able to go to the poll on that particular day, and so I started getting the absentee ballots. It's so much easier. It's so much easier. I don't have to stand in line. When we had the Obama election, I stood in line for hours.
Having come from Chicago, the adage of vote early and vote often was, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, Mayor Daley ran Chicago, and that was sort of a chuckle, but there was more to it than that really stated. I think we've kind of degraded the whole voting process by extending the amount of time that you can vote. It's hard to think that even though the population of the United States was probably, now we're 300 million, it might have been 200 million 50 years ago, but how is it that without computerization we could count ballots and by midnight or very early into the next morning we'd have winners decided and everybody voted on one day? Now a substantial number of people will vote absentee. It's not that I disagree with absentee voting to be used in the right way. You have offshore military, people are infirm and sick and those kinds of situations, but any time that you're going to take ballots over an extended period of time, it just makes me a tad concerned about the effectiveness and the legitimacy of those kinds of votes being cast.
So do you trust the system?
I trust it hopefully now more than I did before, because hopefully there will be some more overseeing because of what's happened.
It sounds like, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but you feel that if somebody is sort of able-bodied, it's kind of a civic duty to show up at the polls and vote.
I 100% agree with that. My wife and I will do that. Even when I was working, I take time from work and we just go get in line either early or late, and you can see your fellow neighbors in there, and it's an opportunity to kind of catch up, not so much about politically what did you do, but to be seen at the voting booth rather than dropping an envelope in the mail and really wondering where did it really go, and is my vote truly going to be counted in that situation?
In my opinion, I think they want certain areas, and by certain areas we mean Democrats basically, want you to, especially in the urban areas, go stand in line. Stand in line for hours and hours at a time.
How do you expect you'll cast your vote in November?
I'll probably vote absentee this year, more than likely.
And why?
Probably because of time constraints. And it just depends on the COVID situation as well, as far as exposure and time at the polls.
Watch Beyond the Ballot Box, presented by the Detroit Free Press and One Detroit, Thursday, November 3rd at 7 p.m. on Detroit Public Television.